It's Feel Good Friday, y'all. Happy to be back on with you. As promised, yes, Trudeau did some shuffling, did some maneuvering, did some card tricks to kind of say, ta-da, voila, cabinet's all fixed now. It's all done. And as well as we find out the internal workings of what is going on, what is happening in Trudeau's world, and what has been going on the past week, why he hasn't really been talking to the media, why he thinks he's awesome, and is going to continue leading the party. All these things. And it's so confusing what's been happening. And even the media is like, huh? As you can read it in their writings that they don't even know what they're talking about at times. It's pretty wild. But we have Reg here in studio with us, and happy to have you, sir.
Oh, glad to be here. It's been fun actually getting to have more FaceTime with you.
The shuffle has come in. So announcement's supposed to be coming here. Right now it is 11 p.m. Eastern time. It's been coming in about a half hour. But the list got leaked beforehand. So really, at the end of the day, I'm going to make sure I shift over here. Not a whole lot of interesting things happening. Here's the list of the only noteworthy aspect is that Nathaniel Erskine Smith will become Canada's next Housing, Infrastructure and Communities Minister, taking over for Sean Fraser, who announced on Monday that he wouldn't be running again, and taking on the public safety portfolio from Finance and Intergovernmental Affairs Minister Dominic LeBlanc, who then, we know all about that. The other Liberal MPs who will be joining cabinet are, this is the long list, and here it's very interesting, very eye-opening. I thought it was fascinating, the positions these people are taking over. Rachel Bendayan, who will become Canada's official languages minister and associate minister of public safety. Elizabeth Briere will become the Minister of National Revenue, taking over from Marie-Claude Bibeau, who isn't running again. Terry Duguid, who will become the minister responsible for Prairie's economic development in Canada. And then our favorite, our boy, straight from Nova Scotia, Darren Fisher, will be taking over as the new Veterans Affairs and Associate Defense Minister, and the exact person I want heading up defense every time. And last but not least, Joanne Thompson, who will take on the Minister of Seniors title, which was a role handed off from Seamus O'Regan, left cabinet. And Ontario MP outgoing Ruby Sahodo will become the minister responsible for the Federal Economic Development Agency for Southern Ontario, a role outgoing Minister Philoma Tassi held. So that's the shuffle. No one's really got removed from cabinet. It was just people opening positions that were then being filled, and that's really was the extent of the shuffle.
Yeah, the one thing that I thought that was interesting that was not leaked, and maybe we'll have to see later whether or not this comes to light, the Deputy PM. I know that's kind of not an official role. That was something that Trudeau had put in place. But nothing. Didn't see anything out there. Is it just assumed that the finance minister will also hold that role? Or is this something that they are going to specify later? So that's something that I think will be interesting because it will have lasting effects. If Trudeau does in fact step down or something happens, then that deputy PM then would become our new PM in the interim until a leadership race was called. So the fact that it's not named there, I'm wondering, is that something they're still figuring out? Is that something that they're not going to have? Like, what's going on there?
Yeah. Is it because we're going into the final year? We have like 10 months left at this point at most. Is there a point to it? Is the drama that's happening in the party right now, the talks in the back rooms, is it getting louder? Is Trudeau even himself losing faith in himself? We don't know. We don't know if a narcissist is able to do that or not, if that's possible. But when you kind of look at these roles and things are being filled in, a lot of it is just like you can tell backfilling. There's not really anything significant or strategic to this at least from the outset looking in, aside from maybe Seamus or Erskine being thrown in. Yeah,
that was kind of my take as well. Just because it just looks like we're just covering the holes right now until this ship finally sinks, honestly.
Yeah.
So they're not even bailing water anymore. They're just like, we're just doing it because this is something we have to do procedurally. Let's go for break. We're done.
Yeah.
Let's take our 7 weeks off.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So this story we kind of were talking about, which I thought was really interesting. It's behind a paywall right now, but we read it earlier. But Trudeau holding talks with cabinet party leaders about whether to step down or not. And there's been a couple false starts we've been hearing through back channels that he was going to step down, then decided not to. We don't know where he's going to lie on this at this point. But then when you go through the article, it was the most confusing article I've ever read in my life. And it actually makes me mad that they're making me go through a paywall to read it. Because it made no sense. The first person, or our first source, then our second source said this, that the third source said this about the second source, and the first source said this about the fourth source. And I was like, sorry, am I solving a riddle here? what is happening? And it just seems like there's so much chaos in like this person saying this person saying that, this person had a different conversation with Trudeau about this person had this conversation about this about Trudeau. And it was like, whoa, I can't follow this right now. And I can only imagine what the journalists on the ground are feeling who are writing these things, because I'm like, I don't think they can sort through this either, apparently, based on what we're reading.
And that's what our conversation this morning was the fact that I think Ottawa right now is in such a disarray that they don't even know who to listen to, who the actual source of truth is, because you've got so many people saying different things, and probably so many of these conversations happening behind closed doors where who knows what Trudeau's even thinking right now. Like, he's probably like, oh, I'm stepping down this morning. And then you've got somebody coming in and pumping his sails saying, you know, the people love you. They respect you. Look at all these positive emails and positive calls. And we saw actually in this article this morning, them actually admitting to keeping any negative influence out of the PM's eyes and ears, and only flooding him with positive reinforcement to continue on. And I thought that was very interesting, because one of the things that we talked about and that you actually mentioned in the earlier video was the fact that these cabinet ministers are very, very motivated to stay in power. And so part of that process is that they know if Trudeau, even though the party is in such a chaotic state right now, him leaving and stepping down would be a whole new level of chaos. You would see that party kind of cannibalize itself, I think. And I think that an election would be imminent. So the fact that, he's staying in power does act as a little bit of rigidity and a solid base for them right now, so that they know how to operate with Trudeau. They know that if they keep telling him nice things and keep him smiling for the cameras, that they've got a job. So because they know that Singh's not gonna pull the rug out. So they're looking at this saying, if we keep him in his echo chamber in Trudeau La La Land, where he thinks that he's the greatest thing since sliced bread, and we keep feeding him this positive reinforcement, then he'll stay, and we get to stay, and we get to keep collecting our very large salaries, which I thought was interesting, was the fact that if you serve in cabinet, you basically get half your salary added on top. So right now, the base amount for a cabinet minister, a base amount for an MP is 200 grand. Then if you become a cabinet minister, you get an extra 100 grand on top of that. So they're looking at that going, one, I don't want Pierre in, as we mentioned earlier. Two, I have a lot more power and influence. I have a whole, list of staff people now that I command and control, and I have a lot of influence over a certain portfolio. And three, I'm getting a nice little bonus on top of my pay. Like, why would I want to end that gravy train? So they're going to keep Trudeau as insulated as possible, to keep him under wraps. And it's a weird thing where it's almost like the puppet master has become the puppet now. So,
yeah, or he's always been the puppet the whole time, and now it's just like puppet inception right now. The overlords of Trudeau are now. Yeah, there's another layer between Trudeau and the overlords now, essentially.
It's turtles the whole way down.
It's crazy. So they were like, you got Arif Virani in his interview yesterday saying, yeah, I have absolute faith in this prime minister, and it wouldn't be better if Poilievre took over. And it's like, no, it wouldn't be better for you, because your paycheck would suck. It'd be terrible, because you're going to be out of a job. The NDP are probably going to take your seat, if anything. So there's a lot of that financial motivation behind a lot of these MPs at this point. So we will then have to see, and again, you brought up the good point of like how Trudeau's insulating himself, or senior officials are insulating Trudeau from any negative comments. And it really starts to make sense, a little bit more sense, of when he's walking through the streets. The F Trudeau flags are flying. People are yelling at him, cussing him out. In his mind, he really does think you're fringe. It's like, no, everyone likes me. You're just a select group of people who just dislike me, and that's an issue with you. If all you're hearing every day from your officials saying, no, the country's in love with you, the party loves you, we love you, all of a sudden you're going to be like, yeah, I'm not going to listen to these guys. I'm not going to listen to Poilievre in the House of Commons saying X, he's lying anyways, right? That's likely what's kind of going through his mind too, and I'm sure he's a little confused.
Well, and that's probably too why Freeland's letter came as such a shock to him, because he's like, everybody loves me. What do you mean?
Yeah.
And so seeing that was probably why he got so shell-shocked and ran away for 2 question periods and only showed up to his feel-good meeting at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think that it makes so much more sense when you see how he acts. Exactly like you said, like, I love this country. I love you all. Everybody loves me. We're all just one big happy family. Like he's Barney. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's ridiculous, but it makes so much more sense when you're like, okay, you put a person who's narcissistic into a room where everybody's feeding that narcissism for their own benefit. Yeah, obviously.
Yeah. And not giving him any break on this whatsoever, but it's starting to make more sense that, like, you know, because you're in the outside looking in, you're just like, man, this guy's full of himself. He's such an, like, how can you go through all this verbal abuse and still think you're God's gift to Canada?
Yeah.
Like, for real. And then you start seeing what the back rooms are looking like, and that becomes your daily when you're hearing these things, and you're sitting in black cars going from building to building in Ottawa and not walking amongst the people. Not, you know, you're so out of touch. He's out of touch. And that's likely what this is. And the senior officials are motivated to make sure he stays in the dark, and to make sure that, because if he steps down, you said election at that point is imminent.
Yeah.
And it's over.
And it's interesting too, because like we felt that when we were in Ottawa. We were like, whoa, this is a whole different bubble. Like it was palpable. You could feel the fact that Ottawa was so disconnected from the everyday person. So if you're already feeling that, and that was on a good day when nobody was honking their horns or waving a flag of any sort, like this was on a good day and it felt disconnected. And then now you fast forward it into a time where people are actively making sure that every piece of content is curated and everything that's said is been vetted and kept in that echo chamber. Well, then yeah, like it's going to be that times a million.
Yeah, it explains why he hasn't had any negative comments or conversations, and why that if that's true, this week was the first time he started actually having negative conversations with some of his cabinet ministers, and that's why for the first time he thought about maybe I will step down.
Yeah,
like this makes so much more sense now if this article is true.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm like, okay, the guy's nuts, but he might not be as nuts as we think he is. It's just the senior officials that have allowed it to be.
Yeah,
can't trust those jabronis. Can't trust. Drain the swamp. Get rid of them. It's over.
But it's like, what replaces the swamp though, right? And so, and we kind of had like this little discussion about it earlier, is that, you know, we look at how much they're being motivated to be in these positions and how they're motivated to keep him in the dark and how they're motivated to kind of keep him in the echo chamber. And, you know, part of its power, part of its pay, part of its influence, and part of its fear of Polyev. So, and probably a lot of it is actually not so much fear of Polyev, but probably actual just disdain.
Yeah, they hate him. They hate him. Yeah, like, you know, you start hearing in backroom conversations, some of these liberals, you know, they're all very proper in the House of Commons, but they're regular people off hours, and they'll say exactly what they think about that man, and they do not like him at all. And that's been his mantra his whole political career. He's been a pit bull. He gets in your face, he bugs you, gets on you, and people don't like that.
Yeah.
Especially if you are corrupt. It's especially not nice.
Yeah, nobody likes the light shone on their dirty laundry.
Yeah.
You know? Keep those skeletons in the closet.
Yeah.
With Trudeau.
Yeah, exactly. And then I'll finish off with this. I thought it was interesting. Did you see the AmFest Ben Shapiro story?
No, I didn't.
So this is doing the rounds like this morning. Shapiro was up on stage telling a story that came up from the first administration of Trump meeting Trudeau. And Trump, supposedly, this is all alleged, Trump asked Trudeau, so like, if I were to like ruin your country, what would be the thing if I took it away from you would ruin you guys? And then Trudeau's like, yeah, if you took away like our manufacturing, like our cars and stuff, and you started taxing that and tariffing them, that would be like terrible for us. He's like, oh, okay. So here's the first lesson, Trudeau. Don't tell your opponent what your weakness is. So now I'm going to put tariffs on your auto until you do X, Y, and Z things. And that's how the conversation went and sent him on his way. I was like, yikes. If that's true, not surprised, but that's wild.
There's no way. There's no way that's true. I haven't like a hard time believing that people are that dense. There's no way.
Oh man. Well, you know, let's have some fun here. We'll end off the show watching this.
The tariffs are really designed, not because tariffs are like fun and games. Tariffs are designed for President Trump as leverage. There is no one in the history of American politics who has used leverage better than President Trump. Right? He uses tariffs as a way of threatening countries to do what he wants. So I'll give you a story. I won't give you the source on the story because I don't want to betray confidence, but it's a great story, so I'm going to tell it anyway. Okay, so this is a story I'd never heard anywhere before. Here's the story. President Trump is meeting with Justin Trudeau, okay, who may or may not be Fidel Castro's son. In any case.
Of course.
I had to throw that one in.
Son. Anyway, he's meeting with Justin Trudeau, apparently, during the first administration, and he is asking for a bunch of things, right, for Canada to do. And Trudeau doesn't want to give all of them. So Trump says to his people, bring Justin here, bring Justin to me. So apparently they sit across from one another. And Trudeau is talking with the president, and President Trump says, Justin, I want you to tell me, if there were one thing I could do tomorrow to completely wreck the Canadian economy, what would it be? And Trudeau goes, well, I mean, Mr. President, there are a lot of things. You're a very powerful country, but, you know, if you tariffed our cars, it would be really, really bad. And Trump goes, Justin, I want to teach you a lesson. The first thing not to do in a negotiation is answer the question, if you could do one thing to destroy me, what would it be? So, of course, President Trump continues, I don't care about Canada. I only care about America. So I'm going to tariff all your cars unless you give me what you want. He got what he wanted.
So the reason why I think this is a bogus story is because I don't think Justin Trudeau actually has enough pulse on the country to know that cars are what would be. Like I honestly.
Immediately I know it was fake news because Trudeau doesn't know what's going on with Canada.
Exactly. I'm like, no, the story's bogus. There's no way. He doesn't know what's going on. He's in that, like I said, he's in that little echo chamber. He's only hearing, Justin, you're a good boy. And that's it. And he reads off the cards of what he's supposed to say. I don't think he has a clue what is actually driving the economies in this country. Because if he did, he wouldn't be throwing all the crap towards Alberta that he's been throwing. So
true. Yeah. Emissions bad. Get rid of Alberta. Emission caps good. Let's do it. No, that's his mentality. Wild. Well, that's what's going on. We'll keep a tune on what's going on and see if this press conference changes anything at all. But
yeah,
we'll keep it on the tabs and let you know. And we'll be here if anything happens. Have yourselves a good one. We're out.